This is Jamie Drummond for Good Food Revolution. I'm joined today, all the way from Bordeaux, by Mr. Mahir Sencan. How are you today, sir?
Hello, Jamie. Hello. Great. How are you as well? Are you doing well?
Fantastic, fantastic. I hear you're having quite a riotous time, literally, in France right now. Everything good with you?
Correct. Yeah, everything is good with ourselves. Well, it is true that we have been having some political and social issues, but it's France, and I think when we have strikes here, that means that France is working well.
Yes, yeah. I've been to France. I've
Otherwise, that
been
would
to
have been
France
weird.
many times, and almost every time there is one strike. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
If you
So
could make your flights, you are lucky.
today we are going to be speaking about the Château Argadens, which is the 2018 I have here, Bordeaux
Yeah.
Supérieur. And you work with Famille Sichel, the owners of this particular chateau. So tell us a little bit about the backstory here.
So correct. So Famille Sichel, they are originally from UK, and they have a Negos house since 1883 in London. So the previous generations they start buying Chateau Palmer in the year of 1938. Those days, the chateaus. Can you imagine that Palmer has been losing money for 20 years consecutively? It was
Hard to think, right? Hard to understand. Yes,
hard to take it now, but it was, between two wars. So
yeah.
even we had the roaring 20s. I mean, the Chateau has been losing massively money, so they could buy a nice share in this Chateau. So they are the majority shareholders today in Palmer. It's not owned fully by the family, but they are the majority shareholders.
Would you say
And
that that Palmer was the jewel in the crown of the family?
absolutely, absolutely. I think Palmer is the point that make the family actually. Then after the family decided to hail from UK to France to Bordeaux because they were in trading business and in negoce business. They were looking for a house to live somewhere, preferably in Medoc, close to the Chartron area, where classically all negoce were rolling the barrels,
Yeah, of course.
sending away to exports. So they find a place in Margaux, not far away from Chateau Palmer, 3 kilometers from there, Chateau Angloudet. Chateau Angloudet was purchased in 1961, and the chateau was literally in ruins in 61 because you may recall 1956 frosts in the region. So literally everything needed to be replanted.
Right.
The chateau was in ruins, and the shay and everything had to be redone. And they saved a couple of cases from 61, which they say Chateau 61, uh, Chateau Angloudet is mythical. I tasted Palmer 3 times from 61. I'm lucky
Right.
enough to taste.
Right.
Never had an opportunity to taste those, but yeah. So that was the second property they bought. And then just after they grew, they keep growing in the markets in the 60s and 70s, the booming years with the British, especially in Britain, as the family hails from the UK. They're very present in the UK. With British Airways, major chains of supermarkets and hypermarkets. And then they decided to invest something here in Bordeaux, with more accessible, because things were already climbing the prices. They weren't in the
Yes.
place
Yep.
of today. They decided to buy some chateau, Bordeaux or Bordeaux Supérieur, in a good terroir. So they purchased Chateau Argadens in 2002, and then later did the neighbor chateau in 2020, Chateau d'Avieux. They're literally neighbors, and one another chateau in the south in 90s, which today the name has changed as Domaine Peter Sichel. And 3 of these properties are run by biodynamic principles. And Chateau Argadens is not biodynamic or organic itself. It doesn't have the certification, but it's HVE3 certified, and
Yes.
it kind of shows the family's approach to sustainability and the current environment issues.
The first two chateaux you mentioned there, they're both in Entre-deux-Mers?
They're both under the mare, and today I can't display maps somehow. But the French they call it this place, Langon, just
Yes.
south of Sauternes, Barzac-Sauternes. There is Langon, and at Langon, the river Garonne kind of turns from northwest direction to the southwest, typically, but it turns to east. So at Langon, this region is known also for Côte, which is, the hillside terroir.
Yeah.
So you have altitude up to 120 meters. For us, Bordelais, that's a mountain, 110 meters. We are on one of the top 5 highest altitude in Bordeaux. So with a south and southwest and southeast aspect.
Okay.
It's within the headwinds, within on the route of the headwinds from the ocean to the central front. So that's a quite nice terroir to have to produce a very good, well-made Bordeaux Supérieur.
Are we talking about clay limestone soils predominantly here?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's classic clay limestone. So we have a good amount of limestone, which is a quite perk in recent years, as you might heard that we have winter drought in France, second year consecutively. So we don't really suffer from drought here, as we have clay and limestone. They absorb the weather. It's not as bad. The situation is not as bad as Margaux, which is predominantly gravel and sand. But we also don't have any excess of water, as we are on the hillsides, and we have a very good drainage as well. So neither excess of drought nor shortage of water or anything.
Now, when was the first vintage of this wine? Because the Château produces one white and one red. When was the first, predominantly red, I believe?
Yeah. Château is 45 hectares, and 42 hectares would be the red, and 3 hectares is white. The great varieties I would come 65% Cabernet Sauvignon for Merlot, for reds, 5% around like 31% Cabernet Sauvignon, a bit 4 to 5% Cabernet Franc, which doesn't make it to itself to blend. I've been here 4 years. I never seen a single.
You've never seen it make it to the blend?
I never seen it make it through the blend. And on the white side, it's 65 to 35. So more Sauvignon Blanc and a little bit of, not a little bit of, but one tier of Semillon. 2002 was the first vintage of Seychelles, because they bought the chateau in 2002. It has been in ruins once again, like classic. The family invested quite much, I would say a couple of million euros for the replanting program, and to build in the shade, to bring in the stainless steels and building concrete vessels, and to buy the pneumatic press and pipes and all these kind of modern gadgets to be able to produce a very clean, well-made Bordeaux Supérieur.
Now, Bordeaux Supérieur is a wine style, a wine level, shall we say, that I think is much underrated. I've always been a huge fan, and I can remember visiting Bordeaux for a show, oh my goodness me, maybe 25 years ago, and being so impressed by the everyday Bordeaux that people could purchase in cafes and the like, and never really seeing too much of that over here. But I think Bordeaux Supérieur almost always provides amazing value for money. Would that be a fair enough observation? You're probably going to agree with me because that's your job, but you know what I mean.
But yeah, that's my job, first of all. But I'm also a diploma student, and I'm an independent wine, lover as well. And I would say, yeah, that's an absolute value. I mean, for the price point that we buy red wine, and you could put it in your cellar. 2018 wasn't ready to drink at 2019. It wasn't something easy Corvina blend like from Valpolicella. It starts showing itself after 2021, and it's a Bordeaux Supérieur. You put it on site, you revisit the wine after 3-4 years, and you see that the wine is getting there. And there are some vintages uh, such as 13, which is considered to be an inferior vintage, right, in
Yes,
Bordeaux.
yes, yes, yeah. In
And
general, yeah.
even absolutely, the critics say consume it, don't hold it. And we get back to the 13 of Château Argadens. It's not showing it is the best, but it is still enjoyable. You have the tannins are silky, you have the acidity, and that is the power of a very well made Bordeaux Supérieur, I would say. You know, you could either enjoy it fairly quickly in 2, 3, 4 years, but you could put it on site. And today, 18 is, in my idea, 18 hasn't peaked yet, and we are sold out. There is not a single bottle to sell. We are on 19th now.
Now, you have tasted this wine many times. You've had it all. I'm sure you've had it all over the world at various dinners and the like. Where do you feel this wine would sit at the dinner table? And what do you personally get from what's in the glass?
Yeah, so 18, I would start saying that 18 is an atypical Bordeaux vintage. There is a sheer power with 18, which is radically different than 17 and 19 and 20. So 18, 19, 20, the trio of Bordeaux success collectively, 18 was a hot year, very hot year that we had seen temperatures over 40 degrees over 3 weeks,
Remember
as I
that?
recall. And the wines, it was the first year after a cool year of 17, the frost year. So the wines produced really concentrated and intense wines. And we could even observe it with our Chateau Argadens, from all the way from Chateau Argadens to Chateau Palmer. So style-wise, that is, I don't want to be a judge, but it kind of caters to Northern American audience, I would say. It's not restricted or too much at finesse. It is the wine is showing. It has the substance. It has the material, as we say in French. It is showing through, and it always came with a strong, more black fruit profile than red fruit
That's
profile.
very
In a
evident.
lot
Yeah.
of exactly in 17 we had the red fruit profile. Here we are more at Blackford profile with evident violets we had somehow in which has started to dissipate and is turning to more spices.
I can pick up
So
on that. Yes, for sure.
yeah, but obviously if it comes blind in my D3 exam, I wouldn't put this wine as it's fully developed or something. So it's start to develop, it's getting there, but it hasn't peaked yet. So yeah, so it's a quite full wine. You are the food and wine pairing guru, as I could check
Oh,
your
I don't know about that,
profile.
but yes.
I don't know what you would pair this with. I know
Well,
in France what they would pair with.
I could go all over the place with this. I mean, despite that kind of power that's in here from the vintage and the ripe fruit, it still has some delicacy going on there, which allows you to pair it with a number of things. I'm actually enjoying this a little bit too much this morning. It's early for me, but I'm going to have a little bit more.
All right, yeah, you're absolutely right. When you measure the wine on palate, the acidity is not flat at all. I mean, it was a warm
No,
vintage, but the acidity is coming through, and it's a flagship. You could get it as a Bordeaux from the glass. It has this savory finish still on palate, although it's a very ripe vintage. The tannins are quite there. If you had tasted it 2 years ago, the tannins were a bit
would it be
more
more prominent? Yeah,
prominent,
yeah.
pervading. It kind of, yeah. Now the tannins kind of melted after 5 years. Yeah,
Yes.
and it's our entry level Bordeaux wine.
I think it shows amazing value for money, and it's a great. I love when you get the chance to show someone an accomplished Bordeaux like this, but at a very accessible price point. It's 1995 over here, and I think that shows great value
Yeah,
for
I
what is
mean,
quite an accomplished Bordeaux. I mean, it's the kind of Bordeaux that you could show in a class as a kind of benchmark superior, right?
we want to be a benchmark superior. So we know that our capabilities of this terroir, we can't really create something Saint-Emilion or Medoc cru classes.
Yeah.
We can't. But we are trying to deliver whatever we can extract from the terroir, and it's the terroir of the côtes. I mean, we are literally in the continuation of the côtes. We are on
Yes.
the hillside. That's why it's a kind of different than the wines that is coming from the flatlands and the declassified zones in Bordeaux, which, Bordeaux Rouge and Bordeaux Supérieur can be vastly different between two chateaux in Bordeaux, because literally the production is around 330 million bottles. It's not less. It's
Yeah.
equivalent of a lot of regions in the world, I would say. So you need to know where to go, which terroir it comes from, the sustainability credentials, and winemaking philosophy.
Now, where does most of this particular bottling go in your export markets? Because that's your area of expertise.
Yeah, absolutely. Ontario is a solid market, I would say. Ontario would be on the top three.
Right.
Since we have been listed, the audience has been close to following the wine. Europe responds well to this kind of style of wine, and believe it or not, but there are new countries coming through. Unfortunately, production is only limited to 240,000 bottles
Yep.
average season for red and 40,000 bottles for white. New countries are opening. But Ontario, I would say, is Ontario and UK, of course, are historic markets. UK, very, very strong, are the top markets.
Fantastic. Well, I'm greatly enjoying this. I'm still thinking about what I would pair it with. When you've been traveling around, what are the most often the pairings that are placed with this wine?
Well, people tend to, when you go from France and bring lots of red wines, a tannic Bordeaux,
Yeah.
first thing that it comes to on the table tends to be a kind of meat.
Yeah.
Any sort of meat. It could be, sometimes they put game, like, elevated game, such in Scandinavia they did, elevated reindeer or something. We had last week with Argadens Red 2019. And here in France, and typically, I'm also checking my colleagues over there sitting and staring at me. They are French themselves. I think steak frit and Argadens, they just say thumbs up. Yeah,
Yeah, I can't see any problem with that. Yeah, that was kind of where I was going. The last time I had steak frites was actually in France, was in Montpellier, and I had some of the best frites I had had in a long time because they had used the beef dripping to cook the beef
Oh,
fat to
that's
cook
amazing.
the fries.
Yeah, they do with the duck fat as well,
Yes,
which it
yes,
becomes a heavenly thing, which is our specialty from our region. So
yes, yes. Mahir, thank you very much for joining us at Good Food Revolution today. I really appreciate your guidance regarding this wine here. I'm going to be enjoying that later this evening. But have yourself a wonderful day, and hopefully at some point we will see you for a glass of wine in Ontario.
oh yeah, look forward to it, and I will bring you some bottles, some back vintages of Argadens, so we could compare it.
I would love that. Thank you very much, sir. Take care.
Thank you. You too.